Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at some games from Clinton Shikuku. I'm going to be looking at two games. A game that he played against Austin Walela will be the first game. Then the second game will be, I think, Mike Kinuthia. So many people don't know Clinton Shikuku, but I think he's one of the most tactical players in Kenya. He's one of the most tactically dangerous players in Kenya. And this game particularly shows the depth to his calculation and how good he really is in you know calculating lines up to the very end. So without wasting any more time, let's look at the game. So the game started with pawn to d4 by Austin. Pawn to d4 by Austin. Knight to f6 here by Shikuku. Knight to f3, and now pawn to e6. Bishop to f4, going for a London setup, and now pawn to b6, going for some orthodox lines against the London. So pawn to e3, knight to h5, just asking this bishop what it's going to do. Bishop was played to g5, now knight back to f6. And you might think that black has wasted a couple of tempi in doing this, but also white has, because the bishop was once on f4, it's now on g5, so not any much of a big difference yet. So after knight to g4, knight b to d2 was played. Knight b to d2 was played, and now bishop b7. Bishop b7, not bishop to e7. So bishop to b7 here, bishop to d3, just continuing with normal stuff. Bishop to e7, and now castles by white. So castles, pawn to d6, just having this little center at the center of the board. This is called, it's actually called the little center. If you look at many Nimzo-Indian books, they'll call it that. So here just queen to e2, just continuing with development, maybe preparing to push this pawn further to e4 at some point, and even further to e5 if allowed. And now knight b to d7, just adding more pieces to the defense of the knight, and also maybe preparing, also just continuing with development, not really preparing anything. And now pawn to e4 as allowed. Castles by black, and now even pawn to e5. Knight to d5 was played. Bishop takes, queen takes back, and now queen to e4, threatening mate in one, which Shikuku sees and plays pawn to f5. And here you can maybe try and capture en passant, but then one of the knights just takes back and defends checkmate on h7. So not really a big difference, though I'd have played it. I think I'd have played en passant here and maybe tried to undermine this pawn on d6 further. But here queen to e1 was played by Austin Walela, and now knight to f4, attacking the bishop on d3. Bishop moved to c4, and now just pawn to d5, pushing the bishop further back. Bishop to b3 was played, and now pawn to c5. So very active play by black. Normally what we usually say in chess is that the person who holds the pawn breaks controls the position. Because if you look at the position right now, or before c5 was played, the center is locked at the moment with these pawns, and the king side, there isn't really much happening on the king side. So if it was white's move to play, white would maybe play something like pawn to c4 and try to undermine black's center in this way. But now since it's black's move to play, he's the one who controls the game, because he controls the pawn break. So pawn to c5, very active play by Shikuku here, and now queen to e3, attacking the knight on f4. Pawn to g5, just defending it, and now pawn to c4 by white. Not c3, but pawn to c4, trying to create some pawn breaks of his own, trying to maybe create something at the center of the board. But in this position, the tactics don't really work for white in this case. So you can maybe try and pause the clock and try and find out what really happened, but then I'm just going to show what happened in the game. So c takes on d4 first of all, and you can't really take back with your queen, because then you lose the queen, you lose your life, you lose everything. Your coach stops training you, everything just happens against you after you take back with your queen, because that just loses your queen. So now we take back with the knight, but d takes c4, very important move. And now you really have to capture back with something. You have to capture back with maybe the bishop, maybe the knight. Here Austin Walela captured with the bishop, and now allowed this sort of plethora of tactics that ensued from this point. So bishop takes on g2. Here, the move to play is bishop takes on e6, and the reason why we're taking back with the bishop is because after knight takes, we want to take back the knight with our knight, and after queen takes, we now play something like maybe king takes back on g7, and we play this position where black has the edge definitely, but white can maybe try and hold for something in this position. But it's not really easy to see why bishop works and not knight. So Austin Walela played knight takes on e6 instead, and now bishop takes on f1. Knight takes on f8 with check. Again, in this position, after bishop takes on f1, you just capture back with your king, and after knight takes on e7, you play this position, and you're really trying to hold on. It's not good for white in any case. You're not really feeling good about the position, but then you can try and hold it. You can maybe try and play something in this position. You can maybe play king to e2 at some point, bring your rook to g1, maybe try to play the position in that manner. Yes, you're down material, but you're still trying to hold on. But after knight takes on f8 with check, bishop just takes the bishop, the bishop that is checking us, and now even playing something like knight to knight captures on d4 works in this position. You might, okay, it's still losing, but you're really trying to hold on. But now here Austin Walela captured the knight on d7, maybe trying to prove that he can win back the piece. Queen takes on e7, now knight takes on c4, and from this point it's completely, again, now it's really completely winning for black. You can throw this queen anywhere on the board and it will still be winning. So queen to d5 winning, queen to c6 is also winning, but here Clinton plays queen to c6, threatening mate in 1 on g2. You have to do something about it, and pawn to f3 was played, but now after queen takes on c4, I think rook to c1 was played by Austin Walela. I think this was just a resignation move, because then just queen takes on c1, and here is where the game, I think here's where he resigned, because you can't take back, okay, you can, but knight to e2 just forks the king and the queen. And yeah, a beautiful game by Clinton Shikuku. He's actually very tactically aware, this guy. And to find this whole idea with bishop takes on g2 working, because you can't, after knight takes, you just take the rook, and after he realizes the discovery, you take back the piece that's checking you, and after knight takes on d7, you can always win back your piece with a mate in 1 threat. So amazing game by Clinton Shikuku, and yeah, just beautiful. Everything he plays is just amazing. He plays beautiful lines. He plays he's actually very tactically aware. So yeah, this was the first game I wanted to show you guys. Yeah, and now on to game 2, and Clinton Shikuku is facing Mike Kinuthia. Not really game 2, I think it was round 7 or 8, somewhere there. The two games are consecutive. So now it's Clinton Shikuku versus Mike Kinuthia. He's come from the game against Austin Walela, and he's feeling really pumped up, and let's see what he played. So pawn to e4, pawn to e5 here, knight to f3, knight to c6, just normal stuff, bishop to c4, an Italian on the board, knight to f6, and now just knight to c3. The 4 knights game of the Italian. Now bishop to e7, pawn to d4, takes, knight takes on d4, and now bishop to b4, pinning this knight, threatening to capture the pawn. So now just castles, and now you have to castle. You can't really capture because then you lose your knight. Castles, and now bishop to g5, pinning this knight to its queen, not allowing the trade at the center. So pawn to h6, bishop moves back, pawn all the way to g5, you move back again to g3 with your bishop, and now just bishop takes on c3. Pawn takes back, knight takes on e4, just attacking everything in the center, queen to d3, and now even pawn to d5. So brilliant stuff by black here. Pawn to bishop back to b3, and now just knight takes on d4, the trade in the center, which I think is a little bit not forced. I couldn't have played that. Maybe I could have tried and maneuvered my knight all the way to the king side or something like that, but all good, nothing too bad. So pawn to c6, and now pawn to f, and now pawn to f4. So something very evident about Shikuku already. He always finds the pawn breaks. He always finds the brilliant pawn breaks. So pawn to g4 here, pawn to f5, and queen all the way to g5. You want to bring your king or your queen to the king side early enough before the opportunity to do so is taken away from you. So bishop to f4, queen to h5, moving away from the attack of the bishop, and now pawn to f6. Bishop all the way to f5, and x-ray on the queen, and now knight, and now bishop to e5, just defending the pawn on f6, because then with bishop to f5 it was undefended. So bishop to e5, just defending it, and now king to h8. So king to h8 again, I think was a stylistic plan, if I may say that. It's sort of a plan that really depends on who you are as a player, because in my opinion I'd have played something like pawn to b5, tried tried to take maybe full control of the entire board, try to create something on the queen side. So my idea is to play something like pawn to h5, then pawn to a5, then a4, and dislodge this bishop somehow and have like really good control of the entire board. But now just king to h8 was played instead, and now queen to e3. Queen to e3 by white, just moving away from the x-ray attack of this bishop. So rook to g8, continuing with his plan, and now just pawn to c4. Again, another pawn break, trying to break open the center. But then here my Kinuthia plays rook a to d8. So another move to play here was maybe bishop to e6, and after the trade happens, maybe take back with your pawn or your bishop. And yeah, I think the bishop is even much better, because then you move it from this diagonal where it's really doing nothing, then you bring it to this other diagonal where it's staring down at the king side, and you might at some day maybe play something like pawn to g3, maybe bring your queen back and start pushing this pawn all the way to h3 or h4, h3, and maybe try and capture something at the center. So here rook a to d8 was played here, and now just c takes on d5, c takes back on d5, and now rook a to c1, just taking control of the open file, the only open file in the game. Rook to d7, stopping any infiltrations of this rook to c7 for the moment, and now just bishop to d1. Queen moves all the way to g6, and now bishop to a4, moving this rook away from the 7th rank. After rook went all the way back to d8, now rook to c7, finally infiltrating on the 7th rank. And this piece is going to be such a very, very dangerous piece. It's going to be a crazy piece. I think it's the piece that's going to win the game. So let's see how that happens. Pawn to h5, and now pawn to h5 I think was a losing move. Here in this position it's not really easy to see it, but after pawn to h5 there's a very clever tactical idea in this position that Clinton Shikuku didn't find the first time, not even the second time it was there, and I think he found it the third or fourth time. It's that crazy. It's a very, very crazy idea in this position. Not completely winning, but it gives you some considerable advantage, and you can maybe try and pause the clock and find it. But the move is rook takes on f7. The idea is that after you take back with the queen, we want to play queen to h6 with check. But for the moment, you can see that even the queen can come back to h7 to defend, and we don't really have anything to prove the sacrifice. So we remove the only piece that maybe defends that square on g7, on h7 rather. We play rook takes on f5, and now queen to h6 with check is a big threat. So you have to defend this somehow. Rook to g6. Now you play rook takes on h5 with check. King goes to g8, and now you can even play something like bishop to c2. And notice that this isn't really a threat. If you play something like rook to c8, you can just capture the knight, and now we have the extra square to run away. So because the knight was kind of blocking the f2 square. So here, after pawn to h5, Shikuku didn't find it. He played rook takes on b7, which is again winning, still winning. And now rook to c8, trying to create some things on the open file. And now just even queen to f4. Very strong move. You're attacking the bishop. The bishop has to move, but before he moves, he plays something like pawn to g3. And the idea is you can't really take the bishop, because then after pawn takes on h2 with check, it's mate in one. You can't really avoid it, because wherever you move, you just play queen takes on g2 and it's checkmate. You can't really avoid it. So here bishop to e6 after pawn to g3. H takes on g3 was played, and now bishop to e6. So bishop to d7 by white, forcing the trade of the bishops. And now rook to c3 was played. Again, in this position, the same idea of rook takes on f7 works, because now if you take with the queen, you just play this check, and you can't really run away from the checkmate in this position. You just play this check. You can maybe try and put your knight in the way, but you just capture it. If you put your rook, you can even promote to a rook, and it's checkmate. So everything in that position is winning. So rook to f3 was played. After rook to c3, rook to f3 was played in defense, and now rook to c2 was played by Mike Kinuthia. And in this position, Shikuku finally found the idea of rook takes on f7. Only that in this position, it's much stronger. Now knight to g5 was played, trying to hold on to the position, but even rook takes on a7 is just completely winning. Knight takes on f3 with check, queen takes back, and now rook to f8 was played. Rook comes all the way to g7, queen to h6, and now even pawn to f7 is winning, and which was played by Clinton in the position. Queen takes on g7 was played, and now queen to h5 with checkmate. And this was the final position. Clinton Shikuku playing a brilliant game, and Mike Kinuthia being on the receiving end of such a beautiful tactical masterpiece. So yeah, both games by Clinton were amazing. He's such a very clever player, very tactically aware, and I just love the way he plays games. And yeah, those were the games by Clinton. Hope you enjoyed them. The other games from the nationals, you can check out the link, the playlist. It's on the screen, I think, in a few seconds. And yeah, this was the game. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and recommend this channel to your friends and stuff like that, and let's make Kenyan chess a big thing in Africa. So yeah, this was it. Hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more games.